Hi everyone, welcome to the National Young Writers Festival and to this specific event, Apocalyptic Sourdough. My name is Jack Gow. I'm a writer and comedian who is coming to you from Gadigal land, from the people of the Eora Nation in Sydney. And today's or tonight's event is a two-part series that kind of interview series that explores the relationship between people and food, where I'm going to interview some of Australia and New Zealand's most exciting new young writers, and I'm going to talk to them about, what would their ultimate final meal be and who would they eat it with. And then after that, there's going to be a second round of the event where Panda Wong will be interviewing them as well. But I'll let Panda explain her segment. So without further ado, I think we'll get our first guest in. I am very excited about talking to this writer. She seems absolutely amazing from what I've met, but I'll also allow her to explain herself. But yes, without further ado, hi, Zenobia, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Now, Zenobia, do you want to let the people at home know who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So I'm Zenobia. I'm a poet. I'm broadcasting to you from Yagara and Turboland in Meanjin, Brisbane. I've been poeting around the traps for a little while now. I currently help out with Queensland Poetry Festival as well. Have been to NYWF a couple of times, IRL back in the day. So this is fun to beam in instead. You'll find out how much I can't cook. This should be fun.
Yes, it's a brave new world, but it's very exciting nonetheless. Now, I've already explained to the people at home kind of the format, but just so you're aware, let's go to our first question. Now, what I'd like to know is if the laws of time and space and cost were no object, what would your final meal be, and who would you eat it with, if you'd eat it with anyone, for that matter?
Had to think about this morning. Should I get cooking while I'm chattering away? I get this
thing,
which I am going to poach.
Oh, lovely.
Because the skill level is low, but I feel like poached eggs are like mildly fancy. I really like hors d'oeuvres and tiny food. I feel like I like having a lot of options. So I feel like if I had a final meal and cost was no element, I would definitely have a teeny weeny one of every possible thing that I like. So that'd be like little tacos, a little sushi, and little cakes. And I just work my way through maybe all the food in the world over 24 hours. I think the kind of glorious hors d'oeuvre towers that they have at fancy theater openings and things. It would be that, but it would just be me sitting at the table in Spirited Away.
I like that very much.
Yeah, that was the first thing that I did to picture myself. I was yeah, no, I'd be I'd be absolutely pigging out.
Who wouldn't?
I just put the first egg in the saucepan with a bit of vinegar.
That's exciting. I don't know how to poach eggs, so I'm actually quite impressed here.
Yeah, I can't everything else I do with eggs makes me have a meltdown, but for some reason poaching, I think it's like putting a goldfish in a bowl. It's just very calm.
That's a beautiful metaphor.
Good. Just came to.
I'd expect nothing less from such a beautiful poet, so it makes total sense.
Thank you. We got these guys. Sorry, there was a second part, wasn't there?
Yeah. Who would you eat it with?
My first instinct is that I have these very good buds, Justin and Tam, and we've been friends since I share house with Justin 140 years ago. And I love making meals with my partner. She's the actual good cook. And Justin and Tam are both very good cooks. So when we all get together, I kind of get to have that like spirited away experience. I like sit there drinking gin and tonics and they bring me food. It's very nourishing. So I would definitely share that that final feast with my partner Beck and with Justin and Tam. And we would sit there for all time until they kick me out into presumably death.
It doesn't have to be. I realised it was quite a macabre question once I'd submitted the proposal for the event, but I don't know. I like the idea. It could be. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's just, it's just the great beyond, the next step, whatever that is, or whatever that means for whoever.
At the end of the universe, maybe.
Exactly. That I like. I like that a lot better. Well, that's very sweet. I like that image. Would you be in a specific setting? Like you mentioned that it's when you have dinner parties with your partner and Justin and Tam. Would you be in your house? Would you be in the share house where you got to know them, or set the scene for us?
Well, they've just moved house, so they've got like a mystery house to explore. And I likewise have just like IKEA'd myself like a new like patio setting, and I feel quite like futch about it. So I feel like maybe I will show off, my outdoor setting.
And look, it makes sense with those balmy Brisbane nights. You'd be mad not to.
It's that and like 4,000 of those little like anti-mosquito candles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wise practical consideration. Although, admittedly, all rules are off. There can be no mosquitoes if you want. I can create a world in which, or at least a bubble in which there's no mosquitoes. You probably don't want a world where there's no mosquitoes. I'm sure they're like a crucial part of some ecosystem. But, for this night only.
The other image that comes to mind is a show I saw years ago that was about Edgar Allan Poe. So it was like suitably emo, but in a very fun way. And then filled this entire theater like with dirt, and you were like in the space around this big dining table that was inside Edgar Allan Poe's head, eating like Edgar Allan Poe's final like brain feast. I feel like if I were to really lean into the golf, I might revisit that location. Like your feet.
I mean, that sounds
dark theater. It's very ambient.
Yeah, wow, that sounds amazing. I hadn't even thought about like a non-traditional dining setting, but yeah, theatre would be great. The lighting's good, the acoustics are amazing.
It's kind of a sense of like anything could happen.
Yeah, no, I love that.
I'm going to stick these guys, which are crumpets my girlfriend made, because I can't do that.
Oh, wow, they look good.
Anyway, I did it. In the toaster, this is the like, here's one we made earlier.
Yeah, great. Okay. Well, all I'll say is that I know that from having watched MasterChef sufficiently that crumpets are apparently very hard to make well. So hats off to Beck. That is a true skill.
This was the meal that was like, I didn't know that you could actually make crumpets at home. I just thought they came from the crumpet factories. That was definitely like a very impressive meal early on.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Well, I must say that sounds absolutely delicious. In terms of your mountain of hors d'oeuvres, which is we'll go with a mountain, are there any particular, because I mean, in a way, I feel like it's kind of like the asking the genie for infinite wishes of food choices, because you've essentially said, I'll have it all. But is there any specific, like anything, any specific food items or any in there that you'd like, I don't know, that you'd really be hanging out for? Or yeah, that would have to be compulsory?
Definitely like the little flamed salmon aburi sushi. That's the good stuff. Some of those little guys. There's a place in Brisbane that does like an aburi salmon sushi that has like a lot of cheese and mayonnaise and like crisped almonds on top of it, it's definitely a treat. But like, it's the end of the world. I could eat maybe 40 of those. So
Yeah,
that's fine.
wow.
That's in there. What else? Like little toasts with jelly and peanut butter. That'd be good. Tiny bagels.
Yeah.
Texture and crunch versus cream. I feel like there'll be crunchy things and creamy things.
Yeah, that's good. Texture is an underrated consideration when it comes to food choices. But yeah, that sounds absolutely delicious. In particular, I want to try that aburi roll that you just described with did you say flaked almonds?
Yeah, it has like little like roasted almond flakes on top. So it's like crunchy and it's creamy and then the best. I feel like that's
damn.
The food of my dream.
I shouldn't have been filming this at lunchtime, or I should have eaten beforehand, because I'm going to be absolutely starving by the end of this. Well, Zenobia, thank you so much. That sounds like a wonderful final meal. I wish that, I could be a fly on the wall and observe you, Beck, Tam, and Justin all, at the restaurant at the end of the universe and just having an absolute ripper of an evening. Songs, mosquitoes. That sounds great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Now, I believe the next person who's going to be joining us, unless Zenobia, you had any parting words that you know?
Oh, good. The eggs are poached.
Are they? God, you move fast.
I think they might even be like a tiny bit overdone. So yeah, hey, good.
Not in the dream restaurant. In the dream restaurant, they're perfectly poached.
I'm like a French chef. A sloppy blob. I feel like that's not camera ready. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No, not at all. Now, I believe our next guest is going to be a writer from New South Wales called Alison Whitaker, who I'm very excited to meet. Hi, Alison.
Yeah, I'm Jack. How you going?
Yeah, very good. Now, Alison, do you want to let the people at home know who you are and where you are and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm recording today from Wongal country in the inner west of Sydney, the outer inner west. I'm Alison Whitaker. I'm a Gomeroi woman. I grew up in Gunnedah and Tamworth. And that's effectively all there is to know about me. I'm a writer, I'm a poet, and I'm a terrible cook.
Hey now, I'm sure you're selling yourself short there. Can I just say, I grew up in Armidale, so hello, fellow Northwest resident. For people who aren't from Northwest New South Wales, Armidale and Tamworth are two towns that are about an hour apart, so that's the proximity there. Now, Alison, what I'm asking people today is if the laws of space and time and cost and essentially any practical consideration, might be an easier way of putting it, didn't apply, what would your final meal be and who would you have it with?
I think, so over the last couple of years, I developed like a weird little liver problem, which means that I can't have this anymore. But I think the KFC 3-piece feed is like the epitome of accessible luxury to me. I would definitely eat that as my last meal.
Yeah, I love that.
Or alternatively, I was thinking about this cordial that my mum used to always tell me about making, made from flowers that grew up where we were from on the river. Oh no, hang on, have I frozen?
No.
Oh, okay, I froze on my side.
Oh, okay, no, you came through.
Good.
Yeah.
So the duality of man, those are the two.
Oh, now it has frozen.
Oh no.
I know, and especially you said the duality of man and then it froze, and I was like, that sounds like it's going to be a killer line.
Thank you. That's very sweet of you to say. It wasn't actually a good line. That was all there was to it.
but no one need know that.
No one needs to know.
Yeah, that's lost to the ether now, to the internet.
Yeah.
So what kind of flowers were they that went into the cordial?
She would tell me there were a kind of like hard flower, kind of like a bottle brush. But it was something that my pop told her about and that I've actually never directly experienced. So I'd like to, my pop has unfortunately passed on, would love to kind of go back in time and ask him, what went into this cordial, because my mum and he would always talk about it in a kind of nostalgic way, and it's sometimes nice to live through other people's nostalgia, but also I guess the significance of having a treat in something that people for many generations before you, your ancestors, had done. But I don't know, maybe the 3-piece feed has replaced that for me now.
I mean, look, I think you should have them together. Like, that's the ultimate marriage of, tradition and modernity. So in the 3-piece feed, because my go-to order at KFC's, I get a zinger burger. So what goes into the 3-piece feed? Which is that? A drumstick, a thigh, and or does it just dealer's choice?
You never get dealer's choice at KFC. That's one of the big cruelties of it. I don't think they still do the 3-piece feed anymore. I think it was like an aspirational thing that I wanted to get when I was a kid. I think they do a 2-piece feed, so it's just like 2 pieces of chicken, a small chips, one of those weird dinner rolls that taste like sugar, and a potato and gravy. So it's all the KFC staples except for popcorn chicken, regrettably.
Yeah, man. That is such a nostalgic description that you've just given there. What I would give to eat a potato and gravy with some KFC chips right now.
Fuck yes. And the potato was Deb, I think, that artificial potato powder stuff rather than the real deal. And I'm such a sucker for Deb. Like, low-key, one of my favorite foods.
I'm a real believer that there's like that fast food, because you get kind of boring people who are like, oh, well, fast food, it's not real food. And you're like, yeah, but it's like you view it as its own like thing, like, so you don't compare like a Big Mac to like an actual beef burger or something that you'd get at like a pub. Like, it's like confectionery almost, like it's its own thing and you just enjoy it on its own terms. That's a great order. Do you ever go the coleslaw at KFC, or were you a purist in that regard?
When I first became a vegetarian, I'm not a vegetarian now, but the thing I was confronted with was how to eat KFC. And so I used to produce this terrible, disgusting combination dish that I called pasta, where I'd have KFC chips, which would be kind of like the spaghetti, and then on top would be the coleslaw, and that would be kind of like my pasta sauce. It was disgusting, but I highly recommend it.
You said disgusting, and literally the entire time you described it, you're taking 2 of my favorite things and combining them in a way that I've never considered and that I really want to try.
Well, it gives a nice sogginess to the chips, which is offset by the crunchiness kind of the slaw, and the sweet and salty thing is quite nice too. Yeah,
wow, that sounds delicious. Now, what we didn't cover though was, so you're going to have the 3-piece feed and the cordial that's made from the flowers that grew on the river, which is a very poetic little image there. Who would you eat it with?
Who would I eat it with? I would probably just eat it with my family. I don't know if we're going too earnest, but I feel really embarrassed eating in front of people, which is going to make phase 2 of this quite difficult. But eating in front of people that you're comfortable with, where you can just kind of spit all over the place, drop stuff on your shirt, as I constantly do. It's one of my favorite things, just a small, humble, messy meal.
That sounds great. And is there a specific place you have in mind where you'd like to eat with your family, or just is anywhere a fitting place if they're there?
I really enjoy eating and being by rivers, I guess. So I would probably want to go and eat by, you would know this place, the Peel River in Tamworth.
Yeah?
Yeah, the Centennial Park that they have there is a place that's really nice for my family in like a completely contemporary way, because we would get pizza there on payday and make little toboggans out of the pizza boxes and slide down the hill that distinguished the river from the public park. So yeah, probably go there.
That sounds beautiful. Now, I don't want to steal Panda's thunder for the second bit, but just out of curiosity, what are you making in the background?
So I am making like a weird little salad. I've got some grilled tomatoes that came from the fancy part of the store. They're quite sweet, which I've never had them before, so I'm excited about that.
Oh, yeah.
And just with some feta and a balsamic vinegar that I bought by accident thinking it was olive oil. Beautiful.
Sounds wonderful. Well, I'll let you describe that and the significance of it in a bit more detail when you speak to Panda. But Alison, it was so nice meeting you, and thank you for sharing your ideal meal with me, because it sounds delicious. The setting sounds amazing. I haven't met your family, but if they're anything anywhere near as nice as you, which I'm sure they are, then I'm positive I'd get along with them famously. So look, I wish I could join you on the banks of the Peel River and tuck into a 3-piece feed myself.
One day, Jack.
Yeah, one day. Thank you so much, Alison.
See you, Jack.
Bye. So I think the next writer that we're going to have joining us is coming all the way from New Zealand. Eamon Mara is who we're going to be talking to next. I hope I've said his last name correctly. And yeah, Eamon's a great writer who I'm very excited to talk to and learn about what his ultimate final meal would be.
Kia ora, how's it going?
Yeah, very good. How are you? Now, Eamon, do you want to explain to the people at home who you are and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Eamon Mara. I live in Wellington on Te Atiawa land. They're the iwi from here, but I'm originally from Christchurch in the South Island. I'm a writer. I had a book come out this year called 2,000 Feet Above Warrior Level, and also, like, I guess I'm still a comedian. I'm not really performing that much at the moment, but I still like to think of it as something about myself. Yep, that's me.
Great. I mean, that's a wonderful summary. Now, Eamon, how did I pronounce it?
I say Eamon, but Eamon is fine. Either one of those two is good.
Hey, let's not sell ourselves short. I can say your name correctly.
No.
If I've done it wrong.
I genuinely like both of those ways. I don't like Eamon or Eamon or something, but Eamon or Eamon are both good. Okay.
Well, Eamon, I'll try and say it the way you do. It looks like you're making pizza, which is very impressive.
Yeah, I am making pizza. I don't know if I'm stretching the dough well. I might actually restart this one.
I've never made my own dough. That's hats off to you.
Yeah, so I've been making this for a long time from the same recipe, and it's the best one I've come across. I tried a few years back, and I didn't used to be a good cook, but I'm much better now than I was. But this is the recipe from taste.com.au. So hats off to Australia for making the best pizza dough in the world.
A revered publication, a revered online publication. Now, Eamon, where I'm asking people if there were no practical considerations to bear in mind, time, space, money, they're no object, what would your ultimate final meal be, and who would you share it with?
So I've been thinking about this all day, and I the thing is, with all decisions when it comes to food, I defer it to my friend Eddie, who was a chef, because I don't really have like the best natural instincts when it comes to what food is good or not. Like, often I go to a restaurant and I will pick the worst thing on the menu. So I've decided, like, if I was going to have a final meal, I would let Eddie decide what I was going to eat, and he could choose it for me, and would probably make it together as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's I've had to have a similar realization about myself where whenever I go out to eat with my partner, I ultimately follow their choice just because they always make a better decision than I do. Now, so you're going to go out and Eddie's going to decide, but is there any, surely there's some foods that you're just, you have a real soft spot for?
Oh yeah, that was the other thing is, but like I think there are foods that I know I love, but I know that there are foods that are better than them. I just don't have the courage to go out further. So the other choice I was going to have was there's a Chinese smorgasbord place in Newtown in Wellington called Newtown Takeaways. I've labelled it the jewel in Newtown's crown. That's how I think of it, and it does Chinese smorgasbord, so like sweet and sour pork, and that's the main one, but also like a chicken thing and a fish thing, and it's also a fish and chip shop. So I figure if I was forced to go to that, yeah, it's amazing. It's the best thing about Newtown, and Newtown is known for being a pretty good place to live. So that would be my my other option. But I think, again, I don't actually have the best instincts when it comes to choosing food myself. And so whenever I go there, I always get too much of this thing called salty pork, which is nice, but I always it's what I end up with at the end. So even if I went there, I feel like I wouldn't have made the best choice there.
Right, this is the perfect, there's no rules here, okay? So in this instance, whatever you choose, that's the perfect choice. You don't need, there's no exterior lens you have to apply to this.
But imagine if I made this choice and then at the end of the meal, I just had, another 4 mouthfuls of salty pork by itself that I have to eat. Because I'm not going to, if it's my final meal, I'm not going to let some of it go to waste. I will.
But maybe it's not letting it go to waste. Maybe it's the final sign of decadence, or the capstone on a life well lived is to just be like, you know what, those last mouthfuls of salty pork, they're staying there. I don't need them in the great beyond.
I just have this regret of what I didn't. I could have had some extra sweet and sour pork at that stage. Which is why I think Eddie needs to be there to make the decision. And I think, I also really like cooking for other people and cooking with other people, but without sharing the kitchen too much. So I think I would like to cook something myself with Eddie to help me do that.
Eddie is very crucial to this, I'm realizing.
He definitely is. It was so, when I got these questions, I was going to message him and ask him.
Hey Eddie, what's my favorite meal?
Well, yeah, but he also expands my
culinary horizon.
Because he'll take me to. I went to Korean for the first time with him, and he sort of taught me how to make mapo tofu. And so, I think I'm a decent cook. I just never choose to cook anything that out there until he. Yeah, not that those things out there, until he tells me to.
Yeah. Well, I want to meet Eddie. He sounds great.
I think everyone should meet Eddie.
Yeah, everyone needs their own.
Do you want to see how the pizza's going?
I would love to.
Right, so I'm making it on a cast iron pan, then I'm going to put it in the oven there. So that's that.
Yeah, lovely.
But I've made enough dough and sauce for all my flatmates this evening when they come home, so
that's very considerate. Not only does it look delicious, but it shows that you're a fine person. So this final meal we covered, you're going to be eating it with Eddie. Do you want to eat it at the Chinese takeaway / fish and chip shop?
Oh, there's no eating there.
Okay. So where are you going to eat it?
Well, so I used to live around the corner from that shop. So I would eat it, and then I'd go to my old flat
Mm-hmm.
and finish eating it there, I guess. But yeah, that is the best place to eat that specific meal. But I don't really know anyone who lives there anymore, so I'd have to bring all of my old flatmates back.
That's not an issue. We're traveling through time and space here, okay? It's the old flat. Everyone you want to be there is there. You know, this is the dream.
Yeah, I think that's that. But my new flat is not. Let's put my new flat in the position of where my old flat was. So we walk from Newtown Takeaway around the corner to Constable Street. Yep. But the house that I'm currently living in is in that exact position, and it has there's a mix of all my flatmates from times past. I'm not eating with all of them, but some of them are in their rooms. And some of them are, you know, walking around the flat as well.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very tickled by that.
Yeah. But all of this can be like usurped by any decision that Eddie would make that would be better than mine. So
wow.
that's
that is so much power for one man to wield. But, you know, you obviously seem to have faith that Eddie's going to wield it judiciously and considerately. So, for all our sakes, I hope he does. So, yeah, that sounds great. Are you going to have anything to drink with it, or do you just go and dry?
Well, I will drink, like, a nice beer would be good, but also a can of Coke Zero would be good as well. Like, I'll have both. I'll have a nice beer and a can of Coke Zero. Yeah,
the ultimate. Bit of caffeine. Yeah, it's like you're taking opposing elevators. You're going down, you're going up. I love it.
I also would have, so this is my drink bottle, and I'm like obsessed with it. I am obsessed with this specific drink bottle, but I have a very strong attachment to whatever drink bottle was my drink bottle at the time. So I would also have my drink bottle there to drink water out of.
Yeah. I don't know if there's like rules against like product placement or whatever, but is that a Swell bottle?
It was from a store called Kathmandu. But I think it's not I think they just like put their brand on it and all the paint flaked off and stuff.
Love an insulated
I wouldn't recommend buying it from there. It's really expensive, but I got it from one of my workmates got me a different Kathmandu drink bottle, but also the receipt. So I took it back and then spent another $10 and traded up for this one.
Hell yeah. I like that. It's very practical. Well, Eamon, I must say that A, your pizza looked delicious. B, the idea of a combined Chinese takeaway fish and chip shop is something that I wish was rolled out, you know, across Australia, because I feel like we're really missing out there. And C, that your final meal and Eddie's immense, almost godlike power over it sounds really lovely, and I wish that I could sit down and eat it with you. I can promise you that when I go to where was the fish and chip shop in Wellington? Yeah,
it's in Newtown. It's called Newtown Takeaways.
Newtown, Wellington. Sorry, I spoke over.
Yeah.
Try it.
Yeah, you definitely do. It's the jewel in Newtown's crown. The best small beer around. Great.
Well, thank you so much, Eamon. And
thank you. Cheers.
Have a good luck with the pizza. It looks like it's going to be amazing. The next writer that we're going to be talking to is coming to us from the Northern Territory. Her name is Haneen Martin. I'm very excited to hear about what her ultimate final meal will be. And so, without further ado, let's chat to Haneen.
Hey, how you doing, Jack?
Good, I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. I'm here on Larrakia land. It is pretty steamy. I'm cooking under my air conditioner at the moment. But yeah, otherwise pretty good.
Yeah, lovely. I went to Darwin for the first time last year to take part in the Fringe Festival, and I'd never been that far north anywhere in Australia. And I must say, you're not lying, it is hot. Like, I know that's not a novel observation about Darwin, but I was not prepared, even though I thought I was prepared.
Well, you actually came in like the coolest time of the year as well, around the Fringe Festival time. We're getting
that's what
towards.
people told me.
Yeah, we're getting towards the wet season now, so it's like really hot and sticky, but there's no rain. We'll get there. It's all right. We'll power through.
Yeah, great. And what do you? I mean, as I say, I'm not going to steal Panda's thunder, but what do you give us a little preview of what you're cooking?
Yeah, I wonder if I can. I don't know if
Yes.
I can do my but I can show you.
Yeah.
There we go. I have
wow.
a laksa happening, but not a standard laksa. It's a Penang laksa, an Assam laksa. So it's fish-based, and in true Malaysian ingenuity, I don't have all the ingredients, so I've gone to like various tinned things as well. So this is a tin of sardines and tomato sauce, which sounds really gross, but it's what we do. We make do.
Oh, not at all. I love sardines. Like, I genuinely love them so much. No shade on sardines. That sounds great.
Yeah,
and very
I'm
fitting.
excited.
Laksa seems to be like the unofficial dish of Darwin, or maybe I'm just the official one.
It is. Well, I think it's, because we did have a laksa festival, but I have a bit of a gripe with the laksas that we have here because they're weird. They're not what you would get in Malaysia.
No.
But
what's
that said,
different about them?
They're just different. They're different, and it confuses people because they assume that's what it's like, and it's a whole thing that I can talk about for hours.
Okay.
But I do DJ under the name DJ Lady Luxor as well. So I thought it was appropriate to sort of pay homage to my culture and my stage name.
Yeah, definitely, which is very good, by the way. So what I'm asking people, Haneen, is if kind of, there were no practical considerations to bear in mind, you didn't have to think about cost, and you could travel through time, and anything can happen. It's a magical scenario. What would your ultimate final meal be, and who would you share it with, if you'd share it with anyone?
I was thinking about this a lot because I changed my mind, I think, like a good solid 3 times. I was so certain what it was going to be. And I'm just trying to julienne cucumbers while we talk. So just bear with me.
Yeah, no, I'm impressed.
But I've decided that my ideal last meal would be, I don't know if you've heard of a chain called A&W. And you may have seen like tins of root beer around the place.
Oh, yeah. I've tried that.
In Malaysia, and I assume the States, they have chain restaurants like Hungry Jack's and all the rest. And they have a particular drive-through one that I think has been shut down, but it's one we used to go to all the time as a family when I was growing up in Kuala Lumpur. And it's in our suburb, I guess, state, whatever you'd call it, called Petaling Jaya. Shout out. But it was the first drive-through, or one of the first in KL for food. And it's not your typical drive-through. It was a full clip on the side of the car window, old school kind of ones.
Like the ones in the Flintstones.
Yeah, exactly like that.
That's so sick. I didn't even realize they still did that. That's amazing.
Well, the particular one in my mind has been shut down this year because they're revamping and changing everything. But it was built, I think I looked up in 1965 or something like that. Anyway, it's awesome. It's so bizarre and wonderful, and one of my favorite childhood memories. And they had just strange, like not visually appealing food in any sense of the word. But, you know, they'd have like sloppy joes and things like that. So imagine like what fast food mince looks like. Yeah, delicious. So yeah, that anything off that menu with the side of a root beer float, you know, with the like a spider.
Yeah.
I guess it is a spider. Different words. Yeah, that eaten with my late uncle, because I feel like he passed away a really long time ago now. I think when I was like 10, I'm 28, 10 or 11, around then, yeah. I would really love to sort of sit with him and have him kind of tear apart my life and tell me all the things that I could be doing better. That would be my ideal sort of final situation, I think.
I mean, that sounds great. Like the root beer float, I want to have one of those now. It sounds delicious. I must say you've lost me on the sloppy joe, but that's not on you. Sloppy joes have always befuddled me with their popularity. And your uncle sounds like he was a lovely man. And I think we all need a little bit of, you know, cruel to be kind family input from time to time. So what, apart from the sloppy joe, is there any other, like, you know, menu items that really stood out to you or that you have a strong memory of?
They had really good fries and hot dogs. But I have to explain the hot dog thing because I have this weird love. I have such a love for hot dogs because when I moved to Australia, I realized that I couldn't really eat them because they're not halal here. So any opportunity I get when I go back to any Muslim country really is sort of do a fast food circuit of Pizza Hut, Domino's, everywhere, so I can eat all the meats that I can't normally access so easily. So yeah,
fast food chains. I mean, this I definitely recognise that I'm asking this question from privileged ignorance. But do the fast food chains not make their meat halal in Australia?
Some are, like, you know, if you get beef or something, most of the meat and chicken, like beef and chicken in Australia is halal, whether people know it or not, or whether it's fully certified because they export it. But, you know, things like salami and pepperoni, standard hot dogs and anything where it's a mix of things. You know, I ordered a burger a few months back at a cafe and there was just no sign of any bacon being in there whatsoever, right, clearly labelled beef patty. And for some reason they had put little bits of bacon through the mince of the burger as well. So, you know, it's pretty easy to get caught out on those kinds of things. So it's this really beautiful mental ease that happens when I am able to go back to Malaysia, and not just being familiar with everything and having good memories, but not having to question what I'm eating is really nice luxury.
I can imagine that would be a relief, or a welcome change. Yeah, I mean, that sounds really lovely. So I guess, what was your uncle's name, just out of curiosity?
His name was Mudrik, but we called him Ade, which actually means younger sibling or brother, because we just copied what Mum called him, and there was just never any way of fixing that for us. And he had a big hand in raising us when we were living in KO and Mum was still a single mother. So yeah, we had a really close relationship, and you know, the reason I wanted to have that sort of last meal with him is I always think about, like, if I were to get married or something like that, what a loss that was to not have his input in those kinds of big events, because he was such a father figure for so long. So yeah, I think having him sort of rip me apart, I think would be really, really great. Have all the familial criticisms that I've missed.
He sounds very nice, and that whole scene just sounds beautiful. I wish I could be joining you in the steamy streets of Kuala Lumpur with that insanely good sounding Flintstones-esque drive-through and Mudrik by our sides. So that brings me to the end of our segment. Thank you so much, Haneen. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to see how the Laksa turns out for the next segment of Apocalyptic Sourdough, where we're going to be joined by the next interviewee, because I'm going to sign off, and we're going to be joined by Panda Wong. So I think Panda's going to join very soon. Hi, Panda. How's it going?
Hi, good. Thanks for that. I really loved hearing about people's final meals. I was thinking about mine, and I think mine would be like a hot pot with like hot chips on the side, which might be cheating, but it's just me trying to get everything that I want to eat in the same last meal.
Hey, there's no cheating. There's no rules. Like, that just sounds great. That's combining two very amazing dishes into one. I love that.
Thank you.
That's really oh, sorry, no, you go.
Oh, sorry. I was going to just say that I'm broadcasting from Wurundjeri land, and whenever you're ready, but thanks so much for your questions. It was really interesting.
Yeah, no worries. And I can't wait to see what everyone's going to talk to you about. So thank you so much, Panda, and good luck.
Thank you. See you later. All right. Hi, everyone. So this is the second part of Apocalyptic Sourdough. So basically what I'll be doing is just speaking to everyone while they eat what they've just been cooking. So just when I was thinking about this event, it brought to mind this book by Tommy Pico called Feed. There's this one line in the book that stands out. It says, "Everything is always hungry for something." So I'm just really curious and excited to talk to these following artists about what they're hungry for. So the first person to return is Zenobia. So whenever Zenobia is ready. Hi, nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you. How's it going?
How's it going with your... Can we get a glamour shot of what you made?
Okay, so here's the most me problem of all time, because I love food. I ate it. Maybe I ate it.
Oh, no, that's fair enough. It was quite a while to wait.
I made a poached egg, and then I looked at it and I was like, this is going to get cold. I have to eat it. But that's okay, because I've immediately moved on to like dessert number 2. So I've got the classic Dara Lee licorice block going right here.
Oh, yep, stunning.
To chomp on, and also the best mug in the world is my Buffy Summers as like.
Oh my god.
Mug.
It's beautiful. Thank you for showing us.
I haven't left you without something for me to nibble on.
No, thank you. That's such a stunning follow-up to that meal. So I guess when you were cooking that meal, or why did you choose that meal to cook? I know you're talking about how it felt a little bit fancy to you, and eggs was something that you don't always have the best of luck with. But yeah, just tell me a little bit more about what you made.
Absolutely. Yeah, I thought it would be kind of a funny choice for 2 reasons. Firstly, for some reason, poached eggs were one of the first things I learned to cook, and they seem at the kind of complicated end of the egg spectrum. But every time I try and make any other kind of egg thing, like even a fried egg, the easy stuff, I just absolutely heck it up. And for some reason, making eggs can really stress me out, and I end up having a panic attack to the point where, like, it's a running joke with my therapist that we don't like start out the egg situation by doing something that I know will stress me. So I was like, that's it, I'm going in on the egg situation. And make my poached egg. And I did overcook it, but that's okay. I didn't cry, so I'm feeling really good about that.
Fun. Yep, it's about the small victories, and you've definitely won today.
That's right.
So you mentioned Spirited Away earlier. I'm really obsessed with Studio Ghibli food as well. I was just wondering, do you have like a favorite food moment in literature or film, or just like any work of art, basically?
Yeah. When I thought about this, it was all scenes of excess that came to me. So Spirited Away was one. But also really important scene to me from childhood was really loving the Magic Faraway Tree books. And at the top of the tree, the land's always changing. And one of the lands at the top of the faraway tree was the land of eat what you want. And I think you're probably getting a picture from me here, as I have already eaten my meal. But it was very enticing to me, this idea of like literally any food being available. And then the other one that popped into my head was the greedy boy in the Chronicles of Narnia chomping on Turkish delight. I would be the greedy boy. I am the greedy boy.
Yeah.
Think of my key food scenes.
Those are all super iconic. Like, I remember I had never tried Turkish delight, and when I read the Narnia books, I just had this like absolute fanging for it. And then when I ate it, I was like, this is amazing. So it's a very iconic dish. I was also reading a few of your poems, and I read the poem Always Hungry and Always. And I was just thinking when reading it about how hunger is just such an innate part of our relationship with food. And in this poem, it's like hunger for more than food. It's like love, queer joy, celebration of bodies. So I guess I just wanted to ask you, what do you think of hunger as a theme in like this poem and like your wider work?
I guess I definitely associate hunger with desire and joy, as is definitely really clear in that poem. When I think of times that I've been low or depressed, or especially not creating, there are also times that I'm like eating because I have to and not really desiring anything from the world. Eating frozen baby food because you have to sustain something. Definitely a lot of up and goes. So I think of food as an expression, I think, of taking joy from the world, or like an exchange of joy with the world, really necessarily taking anything away.
Yeah, no, that's really beautiful. And it's interesting what you say about, when you don't have that joy for the world, it feels like sometimes feeding yourself can be the hardest thing ever. So
yeah,
it like totally reflects that. I've also been wondering, I guess, during isolation or lockdown, has there been anything that stood out as like a comfort food for you, things that you've been turning to?
Yeah, because cooking has never come naturally to me, it's really only in the last couple of years that I've been experimenting with food. It's a slippery slope. I've been cooking a lot of pasta-y things. My partner and I often cook together, so I think that's like blending of her skills and my tendency to experiment with sauces. But in particular, I've been making this pumpkin creme fraiche pasta sauce that's extremely indulgent, but just like so cozy, cozy and cheesy, and involves a lot of roasting. It's a nice long process food. And it's been quince season lately as well, so we've been poaching quinces and making syrup.
Oh, beautiful. That sounds so lovely. Yeah, I always think about pasta as the ultimate, like, just when it's raining outside and you just want to feel comfortable, it's just all you want to eat. Like, once I ate half a kilo of pasta and fell asleep, it's just one of those foods, I think.
The dream.
And I guess outside of your writing, or maybe overlapping with it, whatever it means to you, what do you think, like, what has food come to mean for you? And I guess, has there been anything in this process that has cropped up for you?
Yeah, I think in line with that process earlier of coming to experience not only eating food but also making food as something that can be joyous and nourishing. I, in the first interview, had mentioned dinners with some good friends of mine, and I think that's been something I've been doing more regularly during lockdown, is taking, in Queensland, we're so privileged, we can have our little bubbles and go and see people. So being able to pick out who you're going to go and have meals with starts to mean so much more.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's true. I think until this all happened, I'd never thought about dinners in such a like, I don't know how to put it. Dinners are basically like the best thing in the world to me now.
Yeah.
And like dinners with friends, I'm like, wow, that's like Christmas.
The whole day is building up to it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I also, because I was also reading another poem of yours, Nailed It, that references Gertrude Stein. I really love that poem. It's so exciting. There's so much discovery in it. Do you have any other like favorite people who write about food or anything like that?
Ooh. I mean, I really love that the Eileen Myles poem that begins. In fact, I stole the title for that queer joy poem, Always Hungry and Always. I think the poem begins something like I'm always hungry for peanut butter and sex.
Yeah.
Which I feel like are two key themes in Miles's work.
Yeah.
The way that they write about I guess it's something that I've been exploring both sides, like just the physical experience of the world, that one can always be hungry for peanut butter. It's just you're always thinking about these little small pleasures. But I think those other writers might go back to those like the dream of the childhood feasts. I suppose it's something that's in lots of children's books that were key for me. Like, A Little Princess as well is like that's a very girly one, but the waking up to the giant fantasy feast.
Yeah. The Spirited Away feast.
Yeah, the Spirited Away feast. I'm just absolutely proving myself to be a snacky boy through the course of today.
I think it's the best way to be. Well, thank you for talking to me at such length with such generosity, and for showing my mug. I love it. So it was really nice to meet you, and I think we're almost ready for Alison to come back and show us a salad. So
Lovely.
Thanks, Zenobia.
Thank
Have a lovely rest of your day. That's okay. See you later. Cool. So I think Alison's back. Hi. How are you?
Mama. I'm so excited that I can start eating now. I've been staring at this thing for like half an hour.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Can you show us a little glamour shot of what you made?
There's zero glamour here, but this is kind of the salad. It was a bit of an emergency. Oh, thank you. Emergency concoction with all these little aspirational bits and pieces I bought at the supermarket, but I have no idea how to use. So hopefully it'll all work.
Oh, I love it. It's like an aspirational King's Cup, but for salads.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess that's the aim. We'll see if it works.
Yes, let us know your first impressions after you try it.
It's a bit average.
That's okay. We had a lot of fun watching you make it. So I guess as I asked Zenobia earlier, and we were talking about the Spirited Away food scene, like, do you have a favorite food moment in like literature, film? Could be a song, just like any work of art, I guess.
Well, there was like the American Pie moment, which I feel like I have to reference. Don't actually care about. Which kind of also makes me think of the peach moment from Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. And the one that really lives rent-free in my head is the Shrek scene where Fiona wakes up and makes them eggs after she sings the bird to death. I just think about that.
My God.
I have no idea why.
I think that, I mean, there's a lot of scenes from all of those, well, Shrek and American Pie that live in my head rent-free, as you said. But I feel like the eggs one was just such a sweet turning point in that film. And because I kind of think of the other scene in Shrek where I think, did they cook like rats? But
you're right.
They skewered rats.
Yeah.
And I remember being young and I was like, actually, and I'm a vegetarian, full disclosure, and I was like, doesn't look too shabby. But yeah, that's so interesting about, like, I guess also like food and sex, as you kind of brought up with the American Pie scene and the peach. And I guess just thinking about that, because I actually had a question about one of your poems, and it's the poem Chicken Wire Lemons, and kind of in the last stanza, I can read the last little bit that I'm referring to. So, to pluck a blacker lemon, kissing girls and eating Devons from the dirt, my bread to leave and every push the hole is grew. And I kind of really love this poem because it creates like so much sensuality. Like you kind of feel like you can taste and get your mouth around the poem. So I guess could you maybe talk about how like food influences your writing or has manifested in your practice, or even more about food and like sex and sensuality?
Yeah, I think so the reason that Lemons and the Chicken Wire, which is where that poem comes from, was called that was because there's that link between lemons and queer women and sapphic energy that I really wanted to draw from. But at the time, I wasn't thinking that deeply about it. I came to really, really love lemons when I became unwell and had my dietary options limited and flavor really went out the window. But lemons was kind of like something that would cut through no matter what and would always be there accessible to me. But they were also, weirdly sexy in the way that they're used in literature. I think a lot of time about how one goes about like juicing a lemon and the production of, I don't know, a twisting energy, twisting movement.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to get, and then that makes me think of that Instagram account that fingers citrus fruit erotically.
Yeah.
Food and sex is everywhere, I think, whether we like it or not. Like I was eavesdropping on yours and Zen's conversation about that relationship between kind of hunger of the body for food and hunger of the body for sex. And yeah, that really resonated with me as well.
Yeah. I also just love how, like, I'm like, oh yeah, lemons are actually, because when I was reading that poem, I was also thinking about how lemon trees can make lemons all year round. And for some reason, I'm just like, it's just such a reliable fruit, but like the best fruit in the world for that reason, because you can get it whenever you want. And for me, I'm like, well, that satisfies a hunger in a sense. But yeah, I was also I've like decided to read up on everyone's work for this because I was like, and food appeared in everyone's work, which was amazing. And I was reading Hey Babe, How's Your Day on Cordite. I love that one. I think it's also nostalgic because it's the kind of communication, because I'm in Melbourne, that you don't have anymore because you're just at home all the time and you're not going to text anyone what you're going to have for dinner because you're just going to talk about it. So when I was reading it, I was like, this is such pre-ISO communication. And it just made me think a lot about like how nice it is to kind of meet your everyday needs, but with someone else. So I guess maybe how do you think food relates to care? I guess in that poem, like how do you think food functions for you?
Yeah, I mean, food and care are like this, right? For me, like,
yeah,
it's gonna sound really tacky, but like my love language is like giving and having food and giving it to people. As I think a lot of people are who grew up or whose ancestors grew up in a context where food was deprived or where food was an instrument of control. Like thinking about my grandfather growing up on Tipperina Reserve with both being deprived of his traditional food sources that would sustain him and his ancestors, and then having to subsist on things like flour, sugar, and tea. And so, that desire to care by providing, and almost an anxiety around making sure that everybody is fed, is really, really important. Yeah. I think it's also a theme in literature that comes from groups of people who have experienced this deprivation. I'm also thinking of things like damper and Johnny cakes, fry bread in the US context, and how these are all kind of unique foods produced by their context, a way to kind of nurture and get the most out of really unsuitable foodstuffs and to feed as many people as possible. And now how we're kind of returning to damper and Johnny cakes for the same reason of to nurture and remember through food. So yeah, I think those really carby foods especially are important to me and make me feel grounded. And I always want to share that with other people.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. It's so true that like, I mean, on my end, my ethnic mother's like love language is just like making food, but not saying like making food silently, putting it in front of you doesn't need like any praise or anything, just needs to know that you're like well fed and not hungry. It's it's such a thing. And I also guess I asked Zenobia, like, I guess, was there any particular comfort food or dishes that you might have turned to during like previous lockdowns or isolation?
Yes, I can't pronounce it though, so I'm worried that I'm going to embarrass myself. But a tartatan? Am I overemphasizing that?
I think that is how I say it. So
we're in cahoots.
We're in the same boat. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll put the recipe up on Twitter, but I found a recipe that uses bananas instead of apples, so they're much softer. And it's really, really easy to put it around. So yeah, that's kind of been like my go-to comfort food. It's easy, it's big, so it feeds a lot of people. And it looks really profesh, even though it's really just bananas, butter, sugar, burn it, and then put some pastry on top.
It's actually, in my opinion, it's like maybe like the best date food because you could make it for someone and it wouldn't actually be that stressful, but they would be like, wow, you're like amazing at cooking.
It's amazing. And that flip moment too is like also quite sensual.
Yeah, your heart flips at the same time.
I'm kind of waiting to feel the movement in the pan as well as it kind of oozes out to make sure that you don't miss anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really embodied
experience. So I think we're almost ready to go on to the next person. Was there anything you wanted to say before I let you go back to your salad?
No, I'm good. I hope you're doing well down there.
Thank you. And it was so nice to chat to you about, like, I guess, food and sex and oozing. But some of my favorite topics. But yeah, so thanks so much. I'll see you later.
See you, Panda.
Bye. All right, so next up we have Amon. I'm excited to see the pizza. So just whenever you're ready.
Hi, Panda.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I've already started. It was done a while ago, and I started eating it early. But I can show you.
Yeah.
This is. I've got.
It's beautiful.
More than half next left.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a bit of a theme, like everyone just getting hungry and eating it before this part.
Because it was ready about 10 minutes after I put it in the oven. So.
Yeah, it looks amazing. So can you tell me a bit more, I guess, about it? Like, what are all the toppings and like?
I have olives, capers, mushrooms, yellow peppers, bell peppers, and I've got some basil on there as well, and Colby cheese. I was going to get mozzarella, but I decided I didn't want to go to the supermarket, so I used what was in the fridge already. So it was.
I love a resourceful pizza.
Yeah, it was. I decided to make pizza last week, but I was really glad when I looked in the fridge this morning and realized I had basically everything I needed, so I didn't have to prepare for it.
I love that. The universe wanted you to have pizza.
Yeah.
So I've been asking all the other guests like about a favorite food moment in like literature, film. It can be any work of art, basically. Do you have a fave food moment?
Yeah, it took me a while to think about it. And the first thing that came to my mind was when I was doing my master's in creative writing, my classmate Catherine wrote like just amazing food, like eating and preparing food things in the book that she was writing, and also because everyone else seems to have talked about sex and food as well, but she also wrote amazing sex scenes. And I was thinking, like, often with food writing, you will either go like really amazing food writing, which makes it sound delicious, or like the complete opposite, and that's the same with sex writing. But
True.
I went through my reading log to find something that has food in it, and I remembered this book. It's called Nowhere to Be Found by Sewer, and there's this sort of central scene. It's just a small novella. It's about the narrator going to visit her boyfriend on an army base, and she goes to her boyfriend's mum's house first, who gives her like this chicken meal that she's made to take to him, which is like his favorite food. And it's the middle of winter and there's snow everywhere, and she just keeps on walking around like he's not at the base itself, so she has to go out into these training areas, and the chicken kind of freezes, and she doesn't like chicken, and she doesn't really like her boyfriend, and he doesn't really like her, but she's just going through all this effort to bring him this chicken, and then he doesn't want it, and she ends up throwing it in the toilet. So I think that's my favorite. Like, sorry, I've ruined like a really central part of this plot, but it's
amazing. I would definitely read it just to relive that shock factor when she throws the chicken at the toilet.
Yeah, it's really good. I just read the scene again before to make sure I get it right.
Thank you. No, I guess food actually has a lot of overlap with disappointment when I think about it, because we've been talking a lot about like its more positive qualities, but that kind of captures, I guess, how food can be like life, I guess, really disappointing.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said earlier, I read a bit of everyone's work who's speaking today. So I read your story Debts, published in Kill Your Darlings. Really loved it. Really funny, really sad, especially sad right now, I think.
Thanks.
But I was kind of thinking about like the souvlaki as a symbol of hope for me, because I guess that when you're going out, and you know how the best part of the night is not the actual night itself, but you know, when you can get your like end of the night snack and go home.
Yeah. And
like the souvlaki always saves you from like, I don't know, going to bed hungry or having a shit time in the morning. So I guess for me, well, number one, is the souvlaki your ultimate comfort food?
No, but I'm from, I love it, but there's not really many places in Wellington where I live that does souvlaki. But Christchurch, where I'm from, souvlaki is like the default food. Like here, or it's instead of like kebabs, like doner wrapped kebabs, souvlaki is kind of the standard one there. And I don't know why that has happened in Christchurch. It hasn't got a bigger Greek population than anywhere else, but yeah, it's really good. So when I'm in Christchurch, I tend to get a souvlaki where I can.
Yeah, and I was just, I guess going off that, I was like, I guess I guess you might have just included in there, but I guess how do you think food sometimes it can like influence and enter your practice? So I guess, do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, when I was like thinking about this, I was like, I don't really write about food much, and then I looked through my book that came out and realized there's like eating in 10 of the 12 stories in it. So it's like I do write about it, but I think most of the time food is like the narrator doesn't really enjoy food. It's always just fine or okay. He's never really longing for it, and it also like tends to be wrapped up in a lot of like anxieties around like the ethical nature of food and the health food. And he's kind of a struggling vegetarian vegan throughout the book, so he's always like accidentally eating meat and feeling bad about it, or that kind of thing. And also like various body issues and things as well. So just food in my writing is often, it's never like very rarely a joyous occasion, but I forgot about the souvlaki bit completely. So it is in that one moment.
No, food is totally loaded. But yes, I really enjoyed, I kind of imagined, I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but I just imagined the souvlaki bathed in like this light, because it was just such a like, for me, it was like such a symbol of hope. And
I think, in that moment it definitely was.
And I also guess, I mean, I know New Zealand's a bit different to Australia, but during your initial lockdown, I suppose, were there any comfort foods or things that you found yourself cooking a lot during that time?
Yeah, so I did get into sourdough. I got into sourdough in January, so before lockdown happened. But the reason I got into sourdough is basically the reason why I think everyone cooked it during lockdown is I was unemployed and I had these days to fill, and like spending 5 hours on a loaf of bread it gives you a real routine. But I was baking it 3 loaves at a time twice a week, so my house would go through a loaf of sourdough a day, so we'd basically only eat that as bread. But I think I got a lot more into sort of slow cooking during lockdown, things that I could spend a lot more time on. And I think that was, I had so much time, and I was the only one in the house that was unemployed. So I felt like spending a long time cooking gave me some like structure and form to my day. And it was a nice thing I could do to my flatmates who were otherwise like working hard and often in really stressful jobs and things. So I got into slow cooking.
Wow, that sounds really nice. Slow cooking is actually the best though. It like really transforms like really normal food.
And like, so at my house, there were 6 of us during lockdown. There are 5 now, but we each cook once a week. And if you're only cooking once a week, for everyone, if you're only cooking once a week, you don't mind spending a little bit more time on it and making it a little bit nicer, especially when you're kind of competing with the foods that everyone else makes as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I think from that I've gotten much better at cooking. Just from like spending more time on it and putting a little bit more effort in.
If your pizza is anything to go by, it looks like you're a pretty decent chef. But also I feel like lockdown has been a time when people have actually developed a lot of like those skills, like cooking and making bread. So I tried to make sourdough and it just like, I think I killed my starter multiple times. Like I'll keep bringing it back to life and it would die again.
I've killed my starter twice since I started making it, which is, I think that's normal. I never revive the starter. I just go and get a new one. And I feel like it's like mean, because lots of people take great pride in keeping this thing alive for a long time. But it's just so much easier to just go to a friend and take some of theirs.
Take the starter.
And and just, well, they you split it in half. So I haven't done the like reviving thing, and maybe that's really cruel. Is that cruel?
No, I don't know. I don't know if starters have feelings, but sometimes they have. Did you name your starter? Because apparently that was like the secret to having a good starter.
No, I haven't done any of that stuff. I think I don't even like, because I cook it at the moment. I'm cooking it every week. I don't ever actually need to feed it specifically. It kind of just the process of making the bread feeds it enough to keep it going for another week. So I don't really do any additional looking after the starter, which is why it died when, I took a week off cooking it or something. Then my fridge also broke. So I didn't realize the fridge had broken, and the starter died with it.
Oh my God. I feel like that sounds like a classic millennial short story about like this time or something, like the fridge dies and then the starter dies. And then
I'm actually writing a thing at the moment for a radio play that's going on, which is meant to be a horror thing, and I'm writing it about sourdough because it seems like current. It's not about lockdown, but it kind of feels like something that belongs to this time because everyone got so into it.
Yeah, I think we'll always remember sourdough as a remnant of this time. So we're almost ready to wrap up, but did you have anything you want to say before we go? Thanks so much for showing me your pizza as well.
Thank you. I can't think of really anything. I could say, so this technique of making pizza in the cast iron pan, and that sort of thing, my friend Eddie, who I talked about a lot in the first half, showed me how to do that as well. So he's been a big influence in my life of food.
I really feel Eddie's presence strongly through this chat. Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. It was so lovely chatting.
You too.
See you later.
Nice to see you. Bye.
All right, so next we have Haneen, back with the laksa, which I'm excited for. So just whenever you're ready. Hello.
Hey, Panda. I've got my
How are
laksa here.
you?
I don't know how to show this.
Oh, it's, from what I can see, it's beautiful. So many colors. I
Yeah.
love it.
I'm sitting on my step stool in the kitchen, which I feel is very just appropriate right now. Just really tapping into my kitchenness.
I was really excited to see the laksa because I'm also Malaysian, and when you were talking about like how laksas here are just like not like laksas in Malaysia, I was like I relate. I was like silently screaming, and I was like, yes, someone gets it. Because my theory is that the laksas that we get in Melbourne are too coconut milky, and they just kind of taste like a curry. But then I can never really articulate that because I feel like I'm ruining everyone else's experience. So it's nice to know someone else feels the same way.
Oh yeah, I'm the local laksa killjoy.
We need one for like every state.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's important. And you know, especially at a time where people are sort of spending so much time learning about what they're cooking and eating and consuming, like I don't see why that has to be a thing that we have to shelter people from. Especially because, you know, it's such an important part of Malaysian culture. Every single state has its own different type of laksa. It's not just like a throwaway dish that we happen to have. It's a part of the identity. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think there needs to be a laksa expose. So I was asking all the other guests this question, and I was just wondering if you had like a favorite food moment in like literature, film, you know, anything that comes to mind.
Mine were not so much creative in the conventional sense. I really had to think about this a lot. I have two moments, and one is MasterChef, the most recent season.
Oh, yeah.
That was just awesome to just see sort of the Asian representation, kind of what I was talking about before, that sort of strong level of understanding of what you're serving and why it's important. Was really, really meaningful to me. And the second as well being the I've got some cookbooks behind me, but the Palestine cookbook, Middle Eastern food, which is sort of the other half of my genetic makeup, but it's something that I didn't grow up surrounded by half as much. So I do have an inherent understanding of the flavors, but not in the same sense as I do Malay and Malaysian food. So to be able to actually have this tactile thing that I could refer to and flick through that someone had created and put into the world, and it was so revered by the mainstream, it was just exciting for me.
Yeah, no, totally. It's like, it feels like cookbooks have had such a shift in like the last 3 years or something. Like, I feel like it's really recent. And just thinking, because I actually Googled the other day, I was like, what Malaysian cookbooks can I buy? Because I was like, I really want to make kueh, because I've just been buying it. So for all the listeners, kueh is like, it's basically like a cake, and like there's many different types depending on where you're from. And there wasn't really that much out there when it comes to Malaysian cooking. Like, I guess I feel like I just have to take from my mum and my friends, and that's it. But I read your piece, What Eid Means for Me and My Family. So that was published on SBS Live. So the food descriptions in that piece made me really hungry. So thank you for that. I was like, I think I just eaten, and I read it and I was like, oh no, now I'm hungry again. So I've got to get like meal number 2. So I mean, this is like a question from me just because I am Malaysian, but I just want to know what your most favorite like Malaysian dishes are, or anything that you're like missing, because obviously like we can't get most of it here.
Yeah, well, this is something I've been thinking about a lot this year, not being able to go back to Adelaide where my parents are and my brother for Eid, not being able to go to Malaysia for Eid. Sort of, I've really had to kind of bunker down and work out how to cook a lot of the things that Mum and I used to sort of divide between each other.
Yeah.
But in terms of, so I sought a lot of comfort in that and that process because you would know Malaysian food is really time intensive in the preparation. You really have to be prepared to be standing up in a kitchen for quite a few hours if you want just one dish. So we never cook one dish at once.
It's so true.
But in terms of comfort, it was kampung food, like village food for us, which is just sort of plain steamed rice, sambal, fried fish, or beef or whatever kind of protein, and maybe an omelette, you know, those kinds of things together to be eaten with my hands, just sort of in sort of a quiet meditation. That's that to me was the biggest comfort when everything kind of happened. Yeah.
No, I fully know what you mean. That just took me back to like Malaysia. I think I got a little bit like homesick in that moment. Because that just reminds me of like my grandma, just like the thing that I love the most that she cooks is literally like kangkong, and it just grows in her backyard, and it's like this vegetable that can literally grow in like gutters. It's so hardy, but it tastes so delicious. And you know, those little, I'm like, I don't even know the name, but you know, the curly ferns that you can eat? I was just like the best food. Yeah, maybe. I'm so bad. I just go home and eat food, and then I'm like, that was delicious. But yeah, no, I think that kind of food is just, it's just really grounding or something.
Yeah, it really is. And I think the more you learn about it, the more special it becomes because there's so much weight to everything. One of my probably most interesting discoveries in this time was sort of I'd work out how to cook food. Mum would send me recipes via WhatsApp. And, you know, they're very typical ethnic mum, not a lot of clear instruction, just kind of a list of ingredients and hope for the best. And then she'll tell you everything that I did wrong afterwards. But in a very, very loving way. And it's taught me to sort of trust my intuition a lot. I kind of forgot where I was going. Oh, yeah. But the great discovery I made was I had an exhibition as part of the Red Dirt Poetry Festival called Rindu, which means missing or homesick in Malay. And this dessert that we had, which was tins of almond jelly and sort of various fruits, like rambutan and things like that, which was like a sort of standard treat on a weeknight. Which, you know, you just open the tins, chuck it in a massive bowl and everyone would share. I discovered that was something that Mum ate during the 1969 May 13 racial riots in Malaysia when the whole of Kuala Lumpur was in lockdown. And it was just this bizarre thing where we had this quite blasé conversation about it, and she was just, you know, I guess I asked her, you know, is this something that you think about every time we have it? And she's like, yeah. She was only 9 years old at the time, so she was about the age I was when I moved to Australia, and I remember so much around then too. And I think people forget how much you absorb at that age. You get a mix of people who are like, oh, yeah, you remember everything, and then you get a mix of people who are just like, oh, you were just a baby, you don't know anything. But there's so much that you absorb of the world around you then.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of sometimes when, you know, you engage with those foods in a different context, like outside of Malaysia and in Australia, and people just don't understand how loaded food can be, or like when we're talking about discovery, I found out that obviously my grandma was obsessed with kangkong and like growing lots of easy to grow vegetables in their backyard because like during World War II they kind of had to live off the food in their backyard, and that's all they could eat. So yeah, it's true. There's so much discovery in food. I guess I also kind of wanted to ask, because I know when I did a little Google of you, I was like, I know that you do other things apart from like write, like curate and consult, and you've just spoken about this art exhibition. Is there any, like, have you worked on it in any other art context, or like has food infiltrated your other pursuits in other ways?
I'm not really sure. It's so second nature in so many ways that I don't necessarily think about it outside of the context of writing and visual art. And when I do visual art, most currently I'm dyeing fabrics with turmeric, which is my kind of reclaiming this sort of ultra popularized ingredient that's so basic and homely to me in my memories.
Yeah.
But otherwise, not so much in my creative world, but more in my personal. A lot of the conversations you were having before really resonated with me because food is how I show love to so many people, and I love having really big meals and inviting people over and overcoming the fear of sharing my ethnic food with friends has been really big, and being able to sort of welcome them and invite them into my own space in order to do that has been really powerful. So that's something that I definitely bring a lot into my everyday life at the very least.
Yeah, no, that's so beautiful. And yeah, it's so true. It's like growing up, there was just, I mean, like it's such a standard ethnic kid thing. You're like, oh, my food is smelly. But then as you get older, you realize that smelly food is actually just the tastiest food. And, you know, that's like a wonderful discovery to make. I'm just like feeling like so homesick now talking to you, which is really nice, actually. I think I'm almost ready to wrap up, but was there anything else you had to say, or like maybe just like a review of like the laksa that you made, actually? Because I would love to hear, you know, a little bit of a descript about that laksa.
So for anyone who missed it at the start, it's a Penang laksa. So it's fish-based. There's no coconut milk in there. The condiments that go into it, which made it so colourful before, were pineapple, red onion, red chili, cucumber, and a bit of lime. It's all right. It's pretty delicious, but it's not like I wouldn't pay money for this or anything.
It's not the holy grail of laksa.
Yeah, but I guess I would just want to say that part of why I chose it was also because it's one of mine and my mum's favourite dishes, and it's sort of our sort of campaign around KL whenever we go back together, which we don't really do that often, is to go and find the best asam laksa in KL that we can find.
Yum.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that sounds like such a good mission. Well, it was really lovely to meet you. Hopefully we can eat laksa together someday, because honestly, I'm just happy to have found a laksa, like, kindred spirit, I guess.
We can eat together.
Yes, that's true. I can actually, my mum has a really good laksa recipe, and I'm vegetarian, but I always pretend there's no meat in it when I eat it, because I'm just like, I can't avoid this. It's too sad for me. So I really look forward to the day when we can do that. But it was so nice to meet you.
Yeah,
so
you
thanks
as
for
well.
showing us your laksa. Have a lovely day.
Thanks.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us today, everyone. It was so lovely to hear and like speak to everyone about food. Just such a beautiful and nostalgic time. I almost got emotional there for a bit. So thank you to Mike for running this. Thank you so much to the festival for hosting us. Yeah, I've had a really lovely time. Thanks, and hope you have a lovely rest of your evening.